I'm Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I'm Curtis Jones.
I am Cody Gakpo.
Putting on the Liverpool top for the first time, it was a dream come true, and I'll never forget that moment.
The new LFC 24-25 season Nike home kit is out now.
Buy it today, along with our new goalkeeper kit and training range at your official LFC stores. Online at liverpoolfc.com/store and on the official LFC store app.
You will never walk alone.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters for Anfield Index. It's the 132nd birthday of Liverpool Football Club today, and in honour of them, we'll be talking all things around Liverpool, won't we? We've got on the field, we've got off the field, we've got transfer talk, we've even got areas of focus. And I'm delighted as ever to be joined by the renowned and the respected David Lynch. David, is it quiet at the moment? Is it waiting to explode? Is that a fair assessment, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it's quiet, obviously, with the transfer stuff doesn't seem to get going yet. It's really early days for that, isn't it? But I kind of did expect there'd be a little bit more about the new manager, and we a little bit more from him. So it's quiet on that front, and yeah, it'd be nice to have had some quotes to get stuck into or something to sort of spin off. But you know, it's one of those things we'll hang on and see when that's going to happen. But I'm sure there will be some sort of official interview at some point.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm sure you've seen it on social media. Everyone's got their theories, haven't they? It's like the media team on holiday, they want him, but obviously it's the other side of like, well, it's a new manager set to launch a new era, etc., etc. Is it just one of those? There's nothing to this. It'll just happen when it happens, probably in the near future.
Yeah, I to be honest, I've been out of the loop this sort of last weekend or so, but I kind of. I'm surprised there wasn't something on Saturday to announce it. Not really sure the reasons. I mean, I know people are saying about, you give the media team a break, but that's not real. It's so vast, that media team, that even if a few were on holiday or whatever and taking a break, they could easily get that out. So I don't buy into that as a theory, really. But yeah, not really sure why there's been a delay to sort of anything, being put out there. I'm sure they have done the interview by this point. But yeah, we'll see. And I'm sure it'll be in the next sort of week or so, surely, because it's... there's a bit of time now, isn't there, before pre-season, and I'm sure they'll have had access to the manager and have met him.
Yeah, no doubts about it at all. And we'll start where we always start, ladies and gents, with the off-the-field situation. I mean, as you know, David, it's never quiet with things Liverpool, and there's quite a few stories I want to pick your brains on here. I mean, one of the big ones, you probably saw this, no doubt, is the Sepp van der Berg news. I mean, we talked about this last week, didn't we? Is there a mains clause? And also the club were a little bit silent on that. And then the article comes out that not only is there no clause, but Liverpool specifically are looking for £20 million for Sepp van der Berg. There's interest. There's rumours from the likes of Southampton, Brentford and others. And then, and again, this will be a translation possibly, but Dutch reports then follow, isn't it, that Sepp van der Berg has commented about this and isn't too happy, shall we say, on the clause or the amount that Liverpool are requesting. I mean, what's your take on this whole thing? Because this seems to have almost exploded from nowhere. Yeah,
to be honest, I was quite surprised about the lack of a sort of buy option in the contract that took him on loan, because there was mention of it when he went to Mainz. There was mention in reports from Germany suggesting there was a clause in there that they could make it permanent. It was kind of it was lacking in specificity the way it was reported at the time. It's a bit of a strange one. Maybe there were certain conditions needed to be met, or something's happened. But Liverpool are saying now, when you ask that, there's no clause whatsoever. It's we can set our asking price, and I think the obvious thing is whether there was a clause of any sort or whatever, it's not been met, or there's, Liverpool have been able to get the way out of it, so they can name the price effectively. And to be honest, 20 million, I know they're putting that out there, and that is the kind of set figure. But whenever you report these things, you do know, that's the club's stance, and that they're taking a position. They're probably not expecting to get 20 million, but if they start that's the starting point. Maybe they shake hands on 15 or 16 or whatever. And to be fair, obviously Vandenberg's come out and said, he doesn't think that's the right valuation or whatever. But, for someone who's contracted as long as he is, he's got a lot of experience of top flight football, for someone who's only 22 years old as well, and played really well in the Bundesliga last season by all accounts. So I didn't watch him personally, but, say he was getting, pretty good reviews. And so, he's obviously a really talented player, really good age, ready to make the next step in his career. So for me, 20 million as a starting point is not bad at all. Like I say, it will probably be less than that. It's a very reasonable fee with someone his age with so much experience. So kind of surprised he came out and said all that, to be honest. And, I think it's quite easy to see that, Liverpool don't want to give him away, but there'll probably be a reasonable agreement to be reached there with the club to sell him. So I just don't think he needed to take that step, to be honest, because I think it will, his future will resolve itself. I didn't expect at the time when Liverpool put that price tag on him that he would be staying anyway, because I just think, the fact that they're willing to name the price. I know the suggestion is they want to have a look at him in pre-season, but they'll know, and they are scouring the centre-back market. They'll know there's not going to be a spot for him. So, I expect him to go, and I expect a reasonable fee to be agreed for him to move on this summer. I'm not, so I was kind of surprised. I just didn't think he needed to do that, to be honest. He doesn't need to kick up a stink. He probably will get that move regardless. So, it just needless in my opinion.
Yeah, if anything, you always feel like it might make it a bit harder, realistically. The club dig their heels in over those types of things, so I'll be interested to see what happens there. And one that I did want to ask you about, I know you wrote the Ruben Peeters, that got confirmed article that he will be joining our 8-slot staff. And naturally, people are going to start questioning what's happening behind the scenes, because there's even been reports that one of the staff he wants might not get a work permit at the same time as well. So focusing on Ruben Peeters, naturally, people are going to start saying, is he the new Schlumberger? Is he the new Kornemeyer? What's the sort of understanding of what role he will take and what he's specifically going to do?
I think from job title, what was it? Something like first team lead physical coach or something like that. So it seems to sit somewhere in between what Schlumberger was doing and what Kornemeyer was doing. But I think the emphasis is more on what Kornemeyer was doing in terms of ensuring these players are physically prepared for a 50-game season of intense kind of football. So I think that is the main majority of what he's going to work on and take up that job. So, Liverpool need someone in that role now. It's not, I know towards the end there were clashes, weren't there, and some things written about Kornemeyer, but I think for a long period of time, it's the thing with the injuries. He's going to take some of the blame for that, but I think that blame around injuries should be shared out in terms of the style of football that's being played, the fact that in certain periods of time, certain players were being asked to go over and over again when they probably should have been protected, and there were concerns about that as far back as 18-19 season. Well, internally were suggesting that certain players were getting ridden too hard, and maybe we've seen the consequences of that over the last 2 or 3 years. So you can't hold the blame for that, can't go on Kornemeyer, but the fact is he's gone now, and you've got this new guy in now, Ruben Peeters, and he has to prepare these players for a season where they go deep in all competitions, because that's always the aim. So whoever was to blame for what went on with injuries, this guy's got a lot on his plate in terms of making sure that injuries are less of a problem going forward, because in my opinion they derailed 3 out of the last 4 seasons really have had pretty big injury crises. So that needs to not happen again, and that's between Ruben Peeters, the manager, how they manage the squad and all that. They have to work together to make sure that happens. But I think it's good that Slot's got someone he's worked with before and knows him, and they know what they want from each other. So hopefully this is a step forward that can help Liverpool, have fewer injury problems, because it has been a real problem in recent seasons.
Yeah, no one wants a scenario where 3 players have come back for 2 games and then are injured. Big stars as well with the exact same thing. I mean, is it as simple, and it's maybe simplifying it too much, but for Ruben Peeters, Liverpool fans will be thinking, get players as fit as possible, i.e. if we can get 10 extra games out of Diogo Jota. If, like you said, Szoboszlai's not paid essentially all the same minutes he had by the sort of December time, is that going to be, just think, his focus, just get those players on the field and balance the load as much as possible?
Yeah, but it's the responsibility of everyone as well. So, I speaking to people behind the scenes and sort of know that there's been, it wasn't just a Colwill versus everyone else disagreement. I know it maybe has been positioned as that in the past, but it's not quite the case in terms of, there's a feeling that, not everyone was pulling in the same direction. There were things being allowed, such as players going to get treatment abroad with specialists rather than being used in-house people. In my opinion, that should stop. I don't know how you can run, I'm no medical expert, but it just seems daft to me that you would have a medical department that has specific ways of treating players, knows them inside out, and yet you're allowing your players to go and get treatment abroad. I think things like that need to stop. And again, it's a really good example of the fact that, maybe that was the players using their power a little bit more. So it's not just all about what the medical staff are doing or what the fitness coach is doing or even the manager in terms of how he's, I think that's something that, that is maybe something you can put on the manager. That for me is something that Slot should put his foot down and say, no, treatment is happening in-house. Sporting director as well, I suppose, actually, and Michael Edwards, of course. In fact, it's kind of interesting that in one of the adverts for one of the jobs that are up on LinkedIn at the moment, the listing starts with, we're changing the way we deliver medical services at Liverpool Football Club. So I just thought it was a really interesting line to start a job. I suggest that they know that these things have allowed to, happen and be run in a certain way, and they don't like it, and they maybe think that's contributed to the injury record. So yeah, it's not just about what Ruben Peeters can do in terms of getting them fit, although obviously it's a huge part of it, and he's, by all accounts, very, very good at his job. It's about what happens collectively and how players are treated behind the scenes, and I think, and how they're used as well, how they're deployed within the squad. That's a massive part of it. So yeah, so I think things do need to change and be done differently, and I'm hoping Ruben Peeters can be part of a collective effort to do that.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. It does feel like there's a lot to sort behind the scenes there still, and I mean, this one we talked about last week. Goalkeeper developments. We analysed the goalkeeper positions, what we thought would happen. But we didn't suspect there'd be so many things kicking off this last week also. Though Alisson, obviously Jason Burt said in the Telegraph, a few others, that we kind of mentioned there's definite Saudi interest in Alisson, but we're not expecting anything to happen with that. Probably the biggest thing was Kelleher did the interview, didn't he, with James Pearce, where he actually talked about being a number one and taking the sort of next step. I mean, that's the first bit I wanted to ask you. Did that interview surprise you at all, or are you thinking, nah, I expect that? This is him almost saying, like, I am available to other clubs.
Yeah, it was a really sort of measured, come get me plea, wasn't it? Not done in a very respectful way. Obviously, Kelleher's not the type to kick up a fuss and sort of push for an exit, but I think it's clear. He's made clear, hasn't he, now that, he's ready for first team football now. He's ready to, and I think everybody at Liverpool acknowledges that. We've said it before on this podcast that this is the summer where we will probably go, and I think it was just kind of public confirmation of that from his side that he's ready to go. And again, Liverpool won't be kind of bullied on price, will they? They know what he's worth. I thought he was fantastic last season. It's great that he got such a good run in the side, actually, because it showed everyone that, when he's not just dipping in and out, because sometimes, he'd come in and out and people would be questioning him because he's, he'd be lacking a little bit of rhythm or whatever, and maybe let an easy one in at his near post, or, make the odd mistake. But I think you can show when he gets on a little run of games, he's an absolutely top class keeper. So no doubt that I expect he'll have a lot of interest in him, and this will be the summer that he moves on. But he absolutely deserves it. He's been a brilliant servant, and he's ready for that next step in his career now.
Yeah, no doubt. And if they're asking 20 for Sepp van der Berg, you think it's going to be north of that for Queen Kelleher, isn't it? No doubts about it with that experience. And sticking on keepers, I'm probably butchering the name here, but I think it was pronounced Hans Litar is now I've never heard of this before, the FSG sort of goalkeeping development lead. I mean, I've never heard of a position like that. I mean, is that new to you that FSG were appointing someone in that? I mean, I know we hear about goalkeeping coach, so we thought there'd be someone coming in for Taffarel, but for FSG to appoint someone specifically seems quite distinct in that role.
I'm Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I'm Curtis Jones.
I am Cody Gakpo.
Putting on the Liverpool top for the first time, it was a dream come true, and I'll never forget that moment.
The new LFC 24-25 season Nike home kit is out now.
Buy it today, along with our new goalkeeper kit and training range at your official LFC stores. Online at liverpoolfc.com/store and on the official LFC store app.
You will never walk alone.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become? Senwa Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just basically a formalising a relationship he's had with them for quite a while, to be honest. I mean, they've used him as a consultant for a long time. I got hold of an early copy of Ian Graham's book, and reading that recently. It comes up an awful lot in that, actually, is interestingly. So, it shows you that he's been close to Liverpool for a while, and they've used him to consult on goalkeepers. So, as I say, I think it's just formalising that relationship now and making sure that they're across the goalkeeping market. I know John Axberg had a big hand in that in terms of scouting goalkeepers from all sorts of leagues all over the world. So, when you lose a little bit of knowledge like that as well, to get someone in who can, keep tabs on goalkeepers across the world and be ready for, if Liverpool suddenly need a goalkeeper next week, then, this is a guy who's going to be able to recommend them. And so, yeah, like I say, I think it's just formalising a relationship that already existed. So not a massively significant move, but also, shows that they are. It shows the breadth of the project, really, doesn't it? That they sort of to make that its own job, and we've seen so many sort of positive moods, I think, in that regard, really, in terms of the steps they're taking to create a brilliant structure behind the scenes. So this is just kind of the latest example of that, really.
Yeah, interesting. It means goalkeeper won't be ignored at all, and even in multi-club, it might be a functional thinking as well, an interesting one. And this article I wanted to pick out, because I know you wrote about the six market specifically, because I know we talked about positions last week, and I know, should we just say maybe certain sites clipped things and didn't give full context, because we did talk about the six last week and how Liverpool are looking, and I know the names like Ederson, Varela came up as well. There's a lot of, obviously, talk around, are those serious, and reports for senior Anfield sources saying it's maybe not. I think is it just fair to say that this is the most difficult market because of supply and demand at the moment? But Liverpool are looking and getting a six in are very different things.
This is it. I mean, they've been looking for a number 6 who's sort of peak age, world-class quality for 2 years now and not been able to find someone who thinks right. And I know people constantly suggest people and say, well, he would be right. And, you know, there's so many names. I think I might have said it on the last pod about, you know, Florentino Luis and Ibrahim Sangare, and then they ended up being absolutely terrible. And you just think, well, so they were right, really, not to go into that market. So, you know, again, I have absolutely no reason to disbelieve what Ghostie's writing about Varela, so I presume he isn't a target at all. You know, so I guess he is not someone they think they want to go for. But I mean, in terms of others around that, I'm not. Whether the key question, as always, will be kind of, is there someone out there who you think is good enough, who you think is a game changer, who you think is Tchouaméni level or Caicedo level? And if they don't think that someone's out there who is that, then it won't happen. And that's the biggest thing. And that, you know, I don't know enough about footballers in other leagues and other teams to say that I disagree with that or agree with that. But that is just the state of play. And you know, I couldn't confidently rule out that they would absolutely not sign one. But I just think so much has got to move in terms of they've got to find someone they're absolutely convinced by, which I'm not sure that's happened yet. We'll see. And then also, they've got so many midfielders, it's unbelievable. So, you know, even with all the injuries that they had last year, they never really missed a trick in midfield because apart from using Joe Gomez in the anchor role twice, I don't think they had to resort to anything particularly desperate really throughout the season because they just have, and that was without Thiago and without Bajcetic. So even losing one of those, you think, oh, well, did he desperately need to bring a midfielder in? I'm not sure. Outside of someone coming up on the market who's a number 6 who you think is going to be world class, I'm not massively convinced by that. And I just think the numbers, it's just difficult to make the numbers add up. And I know people hate when you say things like this, but it's just true. There are too many midfielders there. You know, and yes, maybe they could be more ruthless about selling one, but have we ever seen Liverpool do that in recent years? You know, I just don't expect that, you know, it's a lot of moving parts there that would have to come together, I think, for it to happen. But we'll see. You know, there's always room for us to be surprised. But you know, I'm not hearing any names linked that make me think, oh, they're absolutely going to go for that one. And then there's enough room for all these midfielders to play. I'd be kind of surprised, to be honest.
Yeah, he's an interesting one because we did it on Transfer Market Metrics. So we analysed the players, and Dr. Phil Bart's looked at both Varela and Ederson. I know they're the two you're hearing. And the feeling is almost, in simplistic terms, Varela's a bit more Thiago, probably not quite the physicality. Doesn't make him a bad player, but that's the concerns you'd have. Ederson maybe the other way, very much more of a destroyer, physical, not just limited that way, but his passing and could he be a Liverpool midfielder is different. And that's the thing, isn't it? Is there a player that pushes the needle, so to speak, that much, where like Tchouaméni, like, to be honest, Caicedo, like last season, are they absolutely convinced on? And at the moment, I think just because people think we're dismissing this, it's just there might not be a player out there, is there, that Liverpool are looking at, or that's known they're looking at to push that needle that way.
That's it. I mean, I can't think of anybody, you know, unless Tchouaméni suddenly becomes available. You know, I'm struggling to see anyone you know, I'm not an expert in all these different leagues and teams, so, you know, maybe I'm not the person to ask, but not really sure there's anyone out there in European football at the moment that's absolutely playing at the level where Liverpool will think, yes, we have to get this person, and they're available and they're a club, you know, they're not at Real Madrid where they're playing every week. So, yeah, just difficult to see whether there's going to be that player out there. And then alongside that, you know, and I think regardless of the numbers in midfield, if there was someone out there that they could get who would be that, someone like you moves the needle, as you say, I think they would do it regardless of the numbers and try and work it out anyway. But I just think, because there's not someone there, you know, are they going to go out there for a minor upgrade on Endo and then cause themselves this trouble where they've got too many midfielders? I don't think so. I just struggle to see it. And that's why I just don't think it's probably going to be a priority. But there's absolutely no doubt they're monitoring that market because they have been for years. They're trying to find someone who would be that, you know, nailed on number 6 for the next 5 years. But, you know, I've not heard anything yet that makes me think they found that.
Yeah, we'll be interested to see. I think it is the one area people will be looking for. We'll have to see what develops over the next few months. And we do our area focus. So last week, we looked at the goalkeeper situation, which funnily enough took off this week, stories galore. So we'll see if it's the same this week as we talk about centre-back. And I mean, this one, David, it felt like last summer was the midfield overhaul, wasn't it? Everyone knew a lot needed to be done, and as people's contracts coming to an end. Probably not quite the same, but it does feel like it's going to be the busy area centre-back, because Joel Matip set to depart any day when that contract ends. You've got Virgil van Dijk with a year left. You've got Konate now, isn't he? 2 years left, and the press won't stop asking him in France about the PSG links and Liverpool and all this type of thing. You've got Jarell Quansah developing. As you said, it seems to be an area they're busy in. Will Joe Gomez be part of that factor even comes into it? And there's names in the mix. It's probably the names, because I know you've said it, with people can't doubt this, that Liverpool are definitively looking at a centre-half option. One name that's coming up quite a bit, Levi Colwill. And I know people will look at that as, he signed last summer, that renewal with Chelsea, but his name does keep coming up a lot. Do you think there's anything in that, or do you think that's just lazy sort of talk there?
No, definitely something in it, in terms of absolutely would love to sign him if they could, and they wanted him last summer, but it obviously didn't come together for them. So, yeah, no doubt there's legs in that one. I mean, whether it's possible or not, I think you're going to have to, I think for Liverpool, they're probably going to have to wait and see if Chelsea get in a really desperate position with the PSR and they need a homegrown sale, close to that deadline. And, maybe that's going to sort of grease the wheels on that one. We'll have to see. But I've no doubt, that's a deal that if Liverpool could do it, they would, because he's really, really liked. And obviously he's homegrown as well, so that's always helpful. He's flexible in that he can play left back as well. So I think that's something to maybe keep an eye on. But, again, it's all on Chelsea's willingness to sell, isn't it? And whether they feel they need to sell him. So, hard to make any sort of concrete predictions on that one, because it's so much outside of Liverpool's control. And my links to Chelsea are not particularly good, so not really sure what they're thinking, to be honest. But yeah, it's one that you absolutely know they really like him. So, maybe there's a deal to be done there, or possibly not, because they obviously they fended that off last summer, didn't they? So will they be able to do it again? Possibly.
Yeah, it feels like with that one, we'll probably find out as close to the 30th of June as possible, won't we? As stuff rumbles on with that deadline.
You've got so many others they can sell as well that might sort of, help them out on PSR, in terms of like Conor Gallagher, Trevor Chalobah, that they would probably want to lose before Colwill. So that makes it sort of kind of difficult to see. But again, you don't know whether the bids don't come in, or they're not good enough, or it doesn't raise enough money. I don't know exactly how desperate the PSR situation is, but I'm sure we'll get a better idea over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, it's one of those where I think Liverpool would do it if they could, but whether they can is a different matter.
Yeah, probably have to wait a bit for that one. And I did want to ask you about Konate and what's your take on this, because there's been no doubt about Ibou Konate's ability. He's played in a World Cup final, he's played in a Champions League final, he's more than distinguished. The injury situation has always been the question, and naturally at the end of last season he did find himself out the team, didn't he, for Jarell Quansah. He's in that magic 2-year mark because his contract expires in 2026, and a lot of people are commenting, as you can imagine, that obviously Liverpool have made a bit of a mess with certain contracts in recent time, but with the likes of Hughes and Edwards, they're going to be looking almost 2 years as a renewal sell. They won't want contracts to drift into that sort of final year. And naturally, he's being asked consistently about PSG, isn't he? In all these French press conferences. I mean, some of the translations of the day said, almost, can we stop talking about it? But you have that feeling there's no smoke without fire almost a little bit as well. I mean, what do you make of Konate's situation? For you, would this be a renewal instantly? Or would you be thinking, let's just see if there is a market with PSG for Konate at all?
I think they have to make a decision this summer. I don't think they'll want to let this one run on. I think he's, and I know he's had injury problems, but I still think he's played still a lot of games for Liverpool. It's not quite, absolutely chronic with him, is it, in terms of, he's missing all of a season or whatever. He's still putting together a decent amount of games, and he's a very, very good footballer. I mean, I know with his contract, there's been talk about, contract talks have been going on for quite a while there. So, I think it's something they'll want to nail down soon. But it's an interesting one. Unless PSG are going to put the bid in this summer, then they need to get him tied down ASAP. I think it's, he is a brilliant, brilliant player when he can get on the pitch. So, and his injury record's maybe not quite as bad as he's kind of made out sometimes. He's not like some players who never play. So yeah, it's just a crucial summer. But I think the fact that the contract talks have been going on so long, he's really playing down the PSG stuff. I just think that, you know, maybe there's a chance of a breakthrough in the next few weeks that would tie him down. And, you know, I think it's important that Liverpool do that, because adding another centre half will be quite helpful this summer in terms of being able to manage your numbers there. But I think when he's fit and he's playing well, I think Canate, you know, is easily the second best behind Van Dijk, isn't he? You know, as good as Quance has been, I think Canate's just got that little edge over him in terms of his ability to win headers. He's a little bit more powerful. And you know, I think sometimes at points last season got a little bit exposed with his weakness on the ball, but I still think he's, you know, he can improve. There's work to be done there, and I think Arne Slot's going to really like him. So yeah, I think the hope is that he'll get him tied down to a contract before this sort of summer window's up, and I think there's every chance of that because it's been going on a while. They've just maybe got to, you know, maybe it'll be the other side of the Euros and they'll get it sorted. But I think this, you know, they'll hope to have that done by the end of this summer, because as you say, going down then towards the final year is not a position you want to be in, and I think it's something we'll hopefully see less of under Eccleston Hughes, because they don't want to keep getting in these situations.
Yeah, no doubts at all. And that'll lead to a question naturally about Joe Gomez, because, like you said, the utility man, loved by everyone at Liverpool, plays every position. But even in a recent interview, Joe Gomez honestly talking to say, yeah, I do see myself as a centre-half. With the sort of the Arne Slot sort of era started, do you think he will be pushing like, I want to be a centre-half now at all? Do you think he'll be having those chats with sort of thinking, if I can't be a centre-half here, do I start looking at options, shall we say, in his future?
It's an interesting one. I mean, if the player himself says he sees himself as a centre-half, I just struggle to see him getting the game time there for Liverpool. You know, It's not just the Canate there. Obviously, Van Dijk will be a nailed-on starter whenever he's fit. But they're looking to sign a centre-half this summer. You know, Gomez's versatility and Quance, obviously, they're going to want to give him runs of games at centre-half because he's shown he's such a talent, and you need to nurture that. So really, really difficult to see him getting games at centre-back. And I suppose the big question is, what does that kind of mean for his future? Because if he's that desperate to do it, maybe he would push. You know, but I think, again, you know, he's kind of painted himself into a corner a little bit with the fact that he signed that contract. Liverpool would want big money. You know, he's a homegrown player. So again, you know, they would kind of, you know, what that means for other clubs in terms of it adds that premium, doesn't it, for when, you know, for UEFA competitions with registering him, because it's helpful from that regard. So, you know, it'd take a lot of money to get him out. It'd be interesting. I think that's maybe one of the things, as you say, he'll sit down with Arne Slot and say, what do you can see me as? Is it back up everywhere all over the pitch, or have you got a role for me? We'll have to see, but it's kind of hard to see him being a first choice centre half. Definitely not first choice right back. Hard to see him being first choice left back as well. So it's a kind of an interesting one, really. And he's kind of one where there have been rumours, haven't there, about potentially leaving this summer. We'll have to see whether that sort of starts to get legs once he's had a talk with the manager and seen what his options are.
Yeah, another question around the centre half. So I suppose the final one, because you said it's clear Liverpool are looking to sign a centre back, so people will naturally think about names and who that will be. What I actually wanted to ask you is, what profile do you think they'll look at? Because last summer, before obviously Jarell Quance sort of came from nowhere, as you know, the whole talk was about a fifth choice young centre half that they could develop. That was what was being said consistently. With the situation as it is at the moment, with obviously VVD still got 12 months, that talk will rumble on, the Canate situation, everything else. Do you think it is almost a fifth choice youngster who they can develop that they're looking for? Or do you think it could be someone even more senior who can go right into that first team straight away?
I think because of Quance's development, maybe the need has changed a little bit, as you sort of suggesting, really. I mean, it's kind of, you know, Quance will, you know, even if he's that sort of lower down the pecking order, younger one, he's still going to get an awful lot of minutes. If Liverpool are playing in 4 competitions, there's still going to be opportunities there to sort of keep him developing. So I think, you know, there's a real chance for maybe Liverpool sort of go back into that sort of market where they usually shop, which is 23, 24 years old, a lot of top flight experience, ready to sort of kick on and make that next step. And that's the kind of, the name they really go for is kind of in that sort of age bracket, because, you know, I think Quance can be that young one now, you know, even though he's already absolutely brilliant. You know, they've already got that young option there. So to shove someone who would be sort of 18, 19 behind him maybe doesn't make sense. I mean, to be honest, you know, you see some of the names linked, there's kind of a different profile to each of them. So I suppose it's kind of going to be, maybe they're not working on that basis. Maybe they're like, well, if we can get this guy, then great. If not him, then him. But he's slightly different age profile, and we get what we can in terms of, maybe they're kind of working on that basis, because there doesn't seem any sort of consistency in terms of age or profile. There's the ones they're being linked with at the moment. But yeah, it's kind of, I suppose it makes it really tough to say, and maybe they aren't sort of nailed down in exactly what the profile is. They just know that they need another centre half. So we'll have to sort of see what that turns out to be. But it's it's an interesting one. But I still think, regardless of what it is, I still think that's going to be a position they absolutely target in this window.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
Sports Social Podcast Network.